Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com. In today's warehouses, it is essential for you to optimize asset utilization due to the increased demands in e-commerce and overall global supply chains. Lift trucks in heavy use will quickly recognize a lower total cost of ownership with lithium-ion batteries versus lead-acid batteries due to the improved efficiency, fast charging, low maintenance, improved safety, and lower environmental impact. GreenCube's technology can help you achieve this optimization. Listen to today's episode to hear how and head to greencubes.com for more information. That's greencubes.com for more information.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I will be joined by Robin Schneider. She is the Director of Marketing at GreenCubes Technologies. And GreenCubes Technologies is involved in power for the material handling industry, specifically in batteries and chargers. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about GreenCubes, but we're going to dive into a little bit of Lithium 101 and kind of how to navigate the lithium field and start to bring it into your company and your operation and kind of what the future looks like for that as well. So, Robin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Definitely happy to have you on and happy to be talking about this. I mean, I think it's a very timely topic and something that certainly was a topic for discussion at MODEX this past year, earlier this year in 2022. So why don't you first give us a little bit of information about GreenCubes Technologies and kind of familiarize the audience about what it is that you do.
Yeah, so GreenCubes Technology has been in business for over 30 years now. We're a power technology provider in 3 different markets. The longest one we've been in is actually custom OEM batteries. Okay. But we also do batteries for stationary equipment, backup batteries for data centers and telecom. And then we have our Motive business, which makes batteries and chargers for material handling equipment and also things like ground support equipment at airports. We are an international company. Our design center for the Motive batteries is near Zurich. Okay. And then we have production of those batteries in Kokomo, Indiana. We introduced what's called the Lithium SafeFlex brand as a drop-in replacement for lead-acid batteries about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then this past year, we actually introduced chargers into this market. So we're the only company that provides both batteries and chargers for warehouse and material handling equipment. We're really excited about the chargers because they're high frequency and high efficiency, and they're the smallest and lightest fast charger on the market. Okay. And there are a bunch of different models.
Right, and your chargers are specifically unique in the sense that they're smaller and lighter like that. So I guess tell us, for people that may not necessarily think about chargers every day from that perspective, you know, why does that make it an advantage and better for the operation?
Yeah, so I mean, the charging footprint is an issue in a warehouse, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to be able to mount it up on the wall or sometimes way up into the ceiling. So that's an advantage. We also have up to 3 outputs on our chargers. So, for example, with the 30 kilowatt charger, you can split it into 3 10 kilowatt outputs. and charge 3 trucks at a time, which means that you have, a much smaller area for charging the trucks simultaneously.
Got it. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, and certainly an advantage, especially as warehouse space is hard to come by these days. Yeah. In some cases. So the most you can utilize your existing space is certainly a plus, and being able to reduce even just a little bit of space and consolidate space, especially in that charging area too, which can take up a lot of area of your warehouse, but is also an important area. It is a big thing as well. So we want to dive into lithium today. We're going to try and do like the lithium 101 a little bit, I think, right? So we're going to lean on you as our expert to teach us a little bit today about lithium and kind of everything about it. So I guess let's start like very high level here with lithium. We're first off, what is lithium in a sense, and I guess in comparison to other options on the market, where does lithium stand?
Yeah, so lithium technology is basically the same fundamentally working technology as what you'd have in your laptop or your cell phone. Mm-hmm. There's basically a cathode and an anode, and a lithium ion, which has a positive charge, travels back and forth between them on charge and discharge. And then there's a current that corresponds to it in the external circuit. Okay. It's actually lithium ions. There's no lithium metal in a lithium battery. So sometimes there's a misconception about the safety issues. Mm-hmm. This cell is like a basic building block of the battery. Okay. And a cell phone would have one cell. And in a material handling battery, you'd have a much bigger cell and hundreds of them. And then there's electronics that manage the cells and provide safety and communication. So the batteries are smart.
Okay, very interesting, and obviously, I think we're familiar with obviously our cell phones and laptops, as you mentioned, with the lithium-ion batteries there, and this is just on a larger scale. It sounds like so. This is newer to our industry, certainly. So tell us a little bit about why would I need lithium-ion as opposed to maybe some of the more older or traditional solutions that I've been using in the material handling.
Yeah. So there are several things that make lithium-ion batteries have a lower total cost of ownership than lead-acid battery, which is the main incumbent.
Okay.
The primary things are that you have a much longer cycle life of, thousands of cycles. The battery will actually last about 10 years. Mm-hmm. It can fast charge, so it only takes an hour to charge the battery. And there's virtually no maintenance, so you don't have to do watering or anything like that. So essentially, a lithium-ion battery can be installed in a truck, and it can operate 3 shifts, 24 hours a day for about 10 years, which is quite a big improvement over lead acid.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the total cost of ownership being lower is a huge driving factor there as you're looking to save as much money as possible. But I think even the reduction in maintenance and not having to water the battery is not only obviously a time savings, but also more of a safer way to go as well, because you don't have to be handling those batteries, and you don't have to worry about people having to water them or having special people to do that on site as well. So we talked a little bit about kind of what it is and the differences, and what are some other benefits that companies may realize? I mean, you guys, the name of your company is Green Cubes, right? So obviously there's a green aspect to it as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, lead acid is, in addition to being a much slower charging technology, which means that you either have to change the batteries out, or if you have like many shifts, or you will damage the cycle life. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, you have the watering process, which is cumbersome for the maintenance staff, but also prevents a safety issue.
Right.
because you can have acid spills, you can get it, people can get it in their eyes. And then there's all of the safety infrastructure that is required along with that. So you have to have showers, eye wash stations, and all of that stuff. And then there's the environmental benefits, which I think you were hinting at a little bit. Mm-hmm. So lead is obviously, not good for the environment and is very, very highly regulated. Mm-hmm. So you have to do all kinds of environmental reporting for it. And there's a whole infrastructure set up around how to recover it and how to recycle it. With lithium, there's really none of that. And especially with the type of batteries that we use in material handling equipment, it's actually a special subset called lithium iron phosphate batteries, which have a much more environmentally friendly chemical composition because they're made with iron, and iron is really abundant and easily obtained without damaging the environment.
Interesting. And so from a sourcing perspective is really kind of where the more sustainable part of the lithium comes into play. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you've probably seen in the news reports about strip mining for cobalt in Africa, right, and how it's not only unsustainable, it's not good for the people who are doing it.
Yeah.
And, there's like child labor issues and things like that. And there's really we have the added benefit that we don't have that piece of it.
Right. Very interesting. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. And, obviously we talked about the benefits, not only now operationally and from a cost perspective, but also just from a sustainability initiative as well, which I think a lot of companies that's becoming more important and also to the consumer as well. And I think anytime that we can do something more sustainable, but also save some money too, I think is a great trade-off. So we've talked kind of about lithium itself and what it is and the benefits and things of that nature. So if we're looking to start to transition over to lithium, let's talk through like a little roadmap on how to do that, right? So how would you initially want to start to look at lithium as a potential option for your operation and your fleet, and what really would be some of the qualifying factors there to consider that I'm ready to start to move to lithium?
Yeah, so the first step would be to do what we call a power study.
Okay.
And that looks at the usage, how many shifts you have. Do the employees take breaks where you can do opportunity charging, things like that? That would be the very first step. And then once you do that, you can start looking at what are the benefits or what gains you're going to get.
Gotcha. And I guess for perspective for the audience, where would you say, typically an operation is in terms of some of those points you said in the power study to prove that like they're ready for lithium? Like if I'm just kind of thinking in my head and I'm a, director of operations or something, and I'm thinking, maybe I want to look at lithium like right now. Could you give some type of numbers or something that would maybe give them an idea if they're in the right area or time to do that?
Yeah, so one other thing that you need to consider is the chargers that you have available. So you may need to upgrade your chargers as well.
Okay.
Because if they can't put out enough current to fast charge the battery, then you're going to need to upgrade the charger. Generally speaking, though, lithium-ion batteries are compatible with conventional lead-acid chargers. Whether or not you're going to benefit from lithium-ion and where the total cost of ownership or return on investment pays off is generally inverse to how strenuous the usage of the battery is. So if you're working 3 shifts, the switch to lithium-ion batteries is going to happen. The return on investment is going to pay off almost immediately, like within a year.
Oh, wow.
If you're at 2 shifts, it's probably more like 2 years. And if you're only operating a single shift, then the return on investment generally will be more in the 3 to 5 year time frame. And if you have really light usage, then, the upfront cost of lithium is going to be higher, but you're still going to get the benefits of, better safety, more environmentally friendly, and things like that.
Got it. Okay. So one of the big factors, it sounds like, is really the amount of time that you're utilizing power and the batteries itself. As you mentioned, the 3-shift type of setup will probably get the fastest ROI, which I think makes sense. So you're really going to see a faster ROI based on that. And I think even that's telling in a sense too, even if your operation is expanding and maybe you're building towards going past a 2-shift to a 3-shift operation to keep up with your demand. It may be a good idea to include lithium within that ramp up plan and part of your transition to that expansion and doing that type of thing. So you mentioned in there as well the potential to upgrade chargers if you're not getting enough output from your electric source. So is there much more to any type of facility requirements that may need upgrades besides like the chargers themselves?
Generally, no. Obviously the breakers need to be compatible with the charger, but other than that, you eliminate the watering room, you eliminate all that safety equipment, and the lithium ion is basically just a drop-in replacement. And I would like to mention that if there's anyone who's listening who wants to see what their return on investment is, we actually have a calculator on our website. So if you go to greencubes.com and you look for our ROI calculator, you can actually look and see how much savings you'll get in what period of time for your specific situation.
Okay, that's a really good tool to use and certainly something that can come in handy when you're trying to prove to your boss that this is the right thing to do. So definitely check out the calculator. And now the facility requirements, it sounds like very minimal if you have to change your charger, but even if you change the charger based on, what we talked about earlier in our discussion, it could be beneficial from a space perspective as well. So now looking at it and the lithium, are you seeing where some people are like slowly transitioning to lithium, or they're doing like the entire fleet at a time, or what seems to be kind of the trend for people who are switching over?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
So it seems that the most common, it's all over the map, right? So some places, it's a new facility and they're going with all lithium right from the gate.
Okay. Yeah.
But with others, what we see really commonly is that, as the lead acid batteries need to be replaced, they're replacing them with lithium, which means maybe if they've got 200 trucks in a facility, they're replacing 10 at a time over the course of 3 or 4 years. That seems to be a really common approach.
Got it. So kind of as their batteries are reaching end of life, they're switching to new lithium. So that makes sense. So, in that sense, would you say from your perspective, Green Cube's perspective, that we're still relatively young in the lithium market in terms of adoption still?
So there have been some studies that have come out within the last couple of years that show that we're at something like 20% penetration right now, with an expectation that lithium ion will get to 80 or 90% within the next 5 to 10 years,
Oh,
depending on
okay.
which study you look at.
Yeah.
But I would like to put a little caveat on that with the CARB legislation and rules that are coming out, that you need so many trucks to go electric. We might actually see some switchover from internal combustion engine to lead acid. So the whole electric market will grow so exponentially quickly that I think that kind of throws a wrench in the conventional wisdom of adoption of lithium over lead acid, because internal combustion engines are going to be driven away so quickly.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point, because I didn't actually think about the forklifts and things, material handling equipment in that sense. It's obviously, there's so much talk about the cars going electric, obviously, and it'll be interesting to see where that push is and whether people choose lead acid or lithium. So there's a very interesting point you bring out there. So we've talked a little bit about lithium, and we've talked about the benefits and how to get to lithium and what's the right timing in most cases to get to lithium. But where do you think lithium is heading? I mean, it sounds like we still have some space for adoption in the market, obviously, but how will lithium continue to grow as a technology, and what types of things will start to come into play to increase the efficiency and just the overall utilization of that power source?
Yeah, so in the near-term roadmap, one thing that's interesting is that because the batteries are smart, you can use the Internet of Things, or IoT, for utilization, usage tracking, and you can use that to right-size the equipment and reduce your capital expenditures.
Okay.
You can also use it real-time to reduce operating expenditures, and you can also use it for things like troubleshooting. So that's like a really near-term technology that I think people will begin to use more as lithium is adopted. Further out, I think that high voltage is a really interesting thing that we're looking at introducing, and we're not the only ones, but that's kind of the general direction that the industry is headed.
Okay.
A higher voltage system allows for a lower current to be used when you're charging the battery, and that reduces things like overheating, and it allows for better power retention, and it can provide a longer range from basically the same power rating battery.
Really?
So, yeah. So, and there's a little bit of size savings advantage also, which people can take advantage of in an integrated truck. So electric vehicles are going in this direction, and we think that material handling will also. There's some challenges to overcome, but that's a pretty exciting kind of future-looking technology that we're hoping to introduce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about the things in terms of the prevention of issues and how that kind of works. Because I think now, we take a look at things that we're doing preventative maintenance, but I mean, how will, and that's, just kind of like, just every so many hours, you're going to look at the machine, check out the battery and see if anything's going wrong, right? But we start to bring in this IoT technology, then that kind of changes the way we look at things and makes it more specific, I would think, right? So how does that kind of work in helping or maybe changing the way that we do preventative maintenance now?
Right. So, I mean, the battery is actually monitoring each individual cell and real-time reporting that out. And you can choose to look at that with a microscope, basically, even remotely, right? So it can communicate that over Wi-Fi or over the cellular network to a laptop or even to somebody who's totally remote. And that person can look and say, that if there's something wrong, they can say, like, there's a cell that's damaged, and basically pinpoint which cell it is, so that the maintenance person basically doesn't have to go through any kind of troubleshooting exercise. But you can also look and say, operator A isn't charging the battery at every break. but operator B is, right? So you can make sure that your employee's behavior is doing the best kind of charging routines that they can, and or you can look and say, like, forklift A is running low and forklift B is not, so let's go use forklift B over on a different aisle or whatever. So it's really kind of astounding. It's sort of the sky's the limit on what you can do with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I love the forklift driver A is charging and forklift driver B is not, because I've certainly in my warehouse management experience, certainly had the blame game of someone that was using the machine on first shift, and then they come in the morning and the person on second shift didn't plug the machine in, and now it's not charged, and it's like pointing fingers all over the place. So being able to pinpoint that and address the issue with the employee or the operator, and make them understand it and coach them as to when the right time to charge is, I think it is certainly a plus and a benefit as well. And just having that overall visibility into those types of things, and even as you mentioned, like reducing the time for maintenance people to do troubleshooting and things of that nature, I think is a huge plus. So I am curious, before we wrap up here, a question for you is, we see that, we've been utilizing electrification, material handling equipment for a long time, right? And now electrification of just vehicles in general is becoming such a big topic. So do you think that we're seeing where, like, car manufacturers are taking a lot of the technology and things that we've done in the material handling industry already, and trying to apply them to electrification of cars? Or where do you think we are? I mean, do you think material handling and auto manufacturers are kind of neck and neck in the technology, or who do you think is kind of ahead?
So there are ways in which the electric vehicle manufacturers are ahead of material handling, especially in the electronics management.
Okay.
But in terms of the use of this lithium iron phosphate chemistry, that's something that material handling and industrial trucks have been using since the adoption of lithium ion, or the introduction of lithium ion 10 years ago. The electric vehicle manufacturers have been using the same chemistry that's in a laptop or a cell phone, which has some environmental negatives and also some safety negatives. And so apparently electric vehicles are actually looking at using lithium iron phosphate also because of those two issues. So in terms of the chemistry used, material handling is actually 10 years ahead of electric vehicles.
Very interesting. Yeah. I was curious about that and what you thought, because it's interesting to see. We've been doing it in our space for a while, but now it's like coming out into the more general public, and I think it's interesting because it's a little almost in contrast to some of the other sides of like warehousing and material industry, where some technologies like the handheld devices and things like that have been advancing in our like consumer life, but then coming into the industrial world is like now just kind of ramping up to match those like user interfaces and intuitiveness and things like that. So definitely very interesting. And I think that lithium is certainly a way that the market is moving, and it'd be interesting to see how much faster the adoption continues, and how people start to embrace lithium and utilize it for material handling. So it's very interesting to learn about lithium from you today, and kind of where it's heading, and how to get into lithium if you are an operator or a company with an operation, from you, Robin. So I really appreciate the time. And if people are interested in learning more about GreenCube's technologies and finding some other resources, how can they do that?
Well, you can go to our website, which is greencubes.com, and there's lots of information there. And you're also welcome to reach out to me directly. My email address is rschneider@greencubes.com.
All right, great. And we'll put all the information at thenewwarehouse.com as well so people can easily find it. So, Robin, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.